And the creditor continues eating the usufruct from the land that he buys with the wood. So the question is again, is this stuff similar to what we learned? So basically, we said 1 second. That we so Machlokes knows. Abaye said what that this is really fruit, okay, and Rava said what it's really land like we had earlier. Basically, so the Gemara Sakasha, didn't we learn? We said if a guy had given a tree to his friend as collateral, okay, and the tree dried up, or was cut down, okay, shnei masurim. So both of them are forbidden to the bow. They're both forbidden to take the wood. The malva can't take it because it's the Karen, it's the principle of the borrower, and the borrower can't take it because it's the principle from which the lender gets the use of rocks. The case of Yasu, we learned we had this earlier. Yimachru leitzim to be okay. The trees will be sold for wood. But look, we have kachbam karka. You should buy land. Paris, and then the lender can continue eating the use of rock from the land that's bought with the wood. And of course, there's still a principle that should be returned to the borrower. My love. So now let's take a look. You notice that we compared what? We compared drying up and being cut down. Yabash Dumi the Nixas isn't the same thing. Isn't when it dries up, isn't that comparable to what? To being cut down. Ma Nixas, okay, Bismano. Just like you said, it's cut down. We mean to say what? When it stopped giving fruit, it's at the end. Okay, so also off Yabash, okay. Bismano, you mean what also it got old in its right time. That's what we were expecting. Remember what you're expecting, you would think that's the argument. You would expect to be something where the person looked at it as usufruct for Katani, but we learned that what we said what? No, we don't consider it usufruct, but rather it's considered land. And what? And he buys land with it, and the creditor continues to eat the payros. Alma we see karno, so we see it's land, and that's a kasha to a buyer. We don't look at it as usufruct. It's not what the person was expecting. I said, no, you made a mistake. The opposition is different than when you said Nixas doing your diabesh. It's not that drying up was like cutting down. Cutting down was like drying. My yabesh, just like yabesh below mano. Since when it said it dried up and it didn't say it got old. Getting old is what's called in its right time. But if you say dried up means it was before its time, it's premature. Af Nixas below mano. Also, when it's cut down, it was cut down prematurely while it was still giving fruit. Okay. And therefore what? And therefore what? So therefore even a buyer would admit that what? That in such case the owner doesn't the creditor doesn't get any fruit because he never thought that he was going to get it. That was understood. There's two different points. Okay, Toshma. Let me bring you proof. So we still stuck with this point of what is it considered? These trees considered fruit or principle. Toshman nafla lo gafanim bezesim zekanim. A woman, when she gets an inheritance, so what happens is her husband has a right to what we give it to. When she gets inheritance after she's married, so we consider like nechsei malug, that she owns the principle, and the husband has a right to the usufruct. So he said, so what happened was, so she got old ones. Okay, in an inheritance. So what do you do there? Okay, he's supposed to he gets the fruit, she gets the principal. You muffle. So what do you do? So what? So okay. So you can't say what he gets the wood as the usufruct, but rather what you machalates him. You sell the trees for wood. You look at them karka and you buy land. Paris and he eats the usufruct. So you see clearly that we consider old trees like land. Okay, that's like Rava and against Abaya. I says, no, you make a mistake. Abaya answers you, Ema, you're making a mistake. You think what that she inherited old trees? No, Ema. You have to read the brisa like this. She inherited trees with his kinu, and they got old prematurely. Okay, and therefore, when they get old prematurely, even Abaya admits that nobody was expecting them to be the usufruct of the land, and they're considered to be principal and not fruit. By same alternatively, another way to defend Abaya, lav miukim dahi. Okay, didn't we set up that Mishnah like this? Shenaftu lo, okay, and what? She got trees in another field. She doesn't own the field. She just inherited the trees. They're called Kali Karna. So if the husband will take, even if you consider it usufruct, the husband will take it. Even if the husband will take it, he'll destroy the principle. If you consider it, okay, therefore what? Because she doesn't have any land, and therefore even Abaya admits what in this case you have to sell them. He can't take the trees themselves. Even if I would consider trees generally to be like produce, but if he takes them, he'll destroy the principle, and therefore what? So you have to sell them. So even a buyer would admit you have to sell them so that she'll maintain her principle.
When that case occurs, does the tree owner have to compensate the landholder for the fact that his tree is drawing new trees.
There was some regional deal there between the father and landowner. I don't know what the case was. Remember, there's a deal when you have a tree in somebody else's field. There was a deal.
But there's usually
So it depends.
compensation
So
to the
remember,
landholder.
so we mentioned yesterday that there's two deals. The one deal is what that the person has the right to have a tree, and for forever, however long, whatever the deal was, he can keep replanting it. The other way is what that he had this tree, and when the
And
tree
that's
dies,
the end of that.
it's over. It depends on what the deal is. As I recall. Okay, who started the exceed based stam? Okay, here's what happened. This is mashkanta the sewer. We'll say the simple one that a guy gives a guy borrows money, says, "Here, you take my field and need to use it for better, for worse, better years, leaner years, whatever it was." And after so many years, the land goes back to me. That's my debt's gone. So who started the exceed based stam? So what happened was in this particular, instead of saying what the land is given to you as a, for use of to the creditor for a certain amount of years, it just says what years. It just says at the end of these years, the land's going to go back to the debtor instead of the debt. Yeah. But the point of what, but it doesn't say how many years the creditor has a right. It just says years. Malwa Meshal. Now we're going to spend a long time now talking about the rule of who has the prior who's in possession earlier. Malvo Mer Shalosh. So the lender says what the deal was that I get that I get the fruit for 3 years. The lover says no, only 2 years. So now what the creditor came along and the pay rate and he ate the fruit. He consumed the fruit of the 3rd year. So so now who's believed? Okay, the debtor says it was only 2. You owe me back a year's worth of fruit. The creditor says it was 3, and I'm allowed to keep him. So Yehuda says an interesting thing. He says even though the creditor has already consumed the fruit, so to speak, he's in possession. Nevertheless, the Malva has to pay. And why? Because we consider the problem really started on the land, and the land that happened there before he took them. The question was already whether they got rights to the 3rd year or not. So ironically, the possession is really still in the hands of the debtor, and the creditor has to pay it back. Rav Kahana says no. Yeah. So that they were arguing with Baruch, who's the motzi. So his opinion is
he ate him already.
It doesn't matter. It's still the status quo is with the lova because the problem started on the land and therefore he gets it back. He's in possession. That's what I'm trying to tell you. No, Paris he says no, get out of here. He says the guy ate him already, so he's in possession. Yeah, he's in possession. So the debtor is the extractor. The halacha is like the kahana. Okay, but the halacha is like Rav Kahana. Okay, the Amar who says Paris becheskas he says what that the fruit is really what we consider them to be in the possession of the guy who ate them already, and therefore what it's the creditor who's believed. I've all come on. 1 second. How can you tell me what do we say that in general we have a rule that halachas in monetary law? Father Rav Nachman, he always knows what he's talking about. So Amar and Rav Nachman said what? Rav Nachman said, "Karka becheskas ba'al." Okay, he told what was the case. Remember, we had the case where God says, "I'm going to grant you this house, 1,200 a year, 100 a month, and it's a leap year, and it's a leap year. So does he have to pay or not? So therefore, what? And even if the renter at the end of the month, we have to know if he has to pay or not. He says nevertheless he has to pay the extra 100. Why? Because because the property, since we don't know whether we should follow the first language or second language, whatever it is, so the property is in the possession of the renter, even though of the owner, even though the renter has already consumed the month. Okay, so therefore what? So it's clear. So how come over there how come by Mashkanta he didn't also paskin like Rav Nachman, which should have been like what? Should have been like Rav Kahana. Okay. Probably not like Rav Kahana, like Rav Yehuda. Okay, you should have gone like Rav Yehuda, not like Rav Kahana. The answer is the answer you're making a mistake. There's a big difference. Awesome. In the case where we said the halacha is like Rav Nachman, there's a doubt, and there's no way to know the truth. Okay, whether because it's a theoretical argument. It's not a factual argument. It's an argument in the halacha that we can't solve whether we follow the first language or the second language. But over here. And one day we'll get the witnesses to the paper. Even though the paper wasn't clear, we'll find out. We'll find out what it is and what's the problem. Since it could come out So now, if I really you're really right. I really should extract the money I should extract the money from the creditor. Why? Because we really hold that the property is in the hands of the debtor, and that the problem starts in the hands of the debtor, and therefore he's in the possession, and we really should take it away. However, since this is a thing that's likely to be clarified one day when the witnesses tell us, and therefore what? And if we take it away from the creditor, it's quite possible that in the end the creditor is going to be right, and it was really 3 years and not 2 years. We don't want to trouble the Beis Din twice, and therefore, so it's a completely really what it's on a technicality. You're right. In theory, we really would take the money away from the creditor from a technicality, not to bother the Beis Din twice. We don't. So really, we did Pascal like Rav Nachman. Okay, Malva Omer. Okay, Chamesh Velova Omer Shalosh. Okay, what happened? What happened? We have a deal. We don't have the paper. Okay, and the creditor says I had a right to eat the fruit for 5 years. The borrower says what? You only had a right for 3 years. Amar. So the borrower says to the lender, I said, bring me the paper, and prove it that you have 5 years. Amar says I lost it. Rav Yehuda. So Rav Yehuda says what? When he says that, now he's believed that it's 5 years. Why? Migo diboy Amar since if he was a liar, he would have had a better lie. He could have said what? He's been on the land for 3 years uncontested, and he could lie and say I bought it. If a person says he bought it and he was uncontested for 3 years, we have to believe him, even without a bill of sale. Okay, but since he didn't say the better lie, but he said what? I had a right. I know it's not mine. I had a right to 5 years. Okay, we believe him. Amalei Rav Papa Rav Ashi. Rav Papa said to Rav Ashi, he says Rav Zabid, Rav Ravira, Lo Svir. They said they don't agree with. Okay, they don't agree with Rav Yehuda, and we don't believe the creditor with that claim. Why is that? My time. What's the reason? Because Hai Shtara came to the Govinokai, since the paper that he has is the paper that allows him to collect. That's the paper you use. Mizer Zarabe, he should have been very careful, right? Very careful about not losing it. It's very unlikely, that the guy lost it. And it's more likely that he's just hiding the paper. He just thought I'll hide the paper and I'll be able to get 2 years more. Yeah. Now this is an important point. When we use a psychological principle to say what if the person was lying, you would have given a better lie, or we give them the benefit of the doubt. That's when there's no counter argument. But when there's a good reason, you understand, there's a good reason to suspect him, we don't give him the credit of that claim. Here, come on. We know it's not. It's very unlikely, you understand, very unlikely that a guy loses yeah, that's how he collects his money. That's his check. How many times the guy loses a check that the guy gave to take money or a paper? So the thing, so you're not going to lose. So yeah, whatever it is. But I'm saying so he's not going to lose it. And the fact that he claims he lost it, we're already suspicious he didn't lose it, that he's hiding it. Okay, says the Gemara. So Gemara asked about what Yehuda said what that he's believed. If it's true that we give him the credit, he says, listen, I could have said, since you let me stay on land for 3 years. Since I could have lied and said I owned it, you should believe me. I bought it. I mashkanta the suri the kasuyach. Let's say again there was a mashkanta suri. The paper said the creditor says, look, you're gonna eat the fruits of my field. And it said b'mishlam shanya ilan. It says at the end of these years, tipuk ara double kesef. At the end of these years, the land is going to go back without me paying anything. Okay, I don't have to pay anything. Heicha the kavshe l'shtar mashkanta. Okay. So now, if the owner will hide that paper, and he says, and he'll say, "What? I bought it." Is he going to believe? The way you're saying it was, if he could have done that. So you're saying if he would have done it, he would have been believed. Saying his claim is what? Had I wanted to, I could have just said I bought it. Then I said, how can the rabbis have allowed the whole principle of mashkata desura when it's going to come out that the guy can easily cheat it? It was an enactment from that place. From that based in. But the point is but the point is there are two types. Remember, one is where he pays a set fee each year, discounts the loan per year, or he gets the fruits better or worse. That's called bashkanta desura. One's nachyasa, one's bashkanta desura. So now bashkanta desura. Okay, so we have a problem. Since it's going to make every debtor vulnerable to an easy lie. of the creditor. Okay, always what the creditor will hide the paper, and other because you realize what's happening. The debtor is of course is not protesting. That was the deal. The deal was that the creditor is going to stay on the land and eat the fruit. So by definition, the creditor, the debtor is never going to protest, and he opens up the possibility. The guy's got to do is hide the paper and lie and say he bought it. Okay, so how can the rabbis set up a pitfall like that? They would never do such a thing. Or later, Rav Ashi said to him, "Say you make a mistake." Hasam, he says, "You're making a mistake." Okay, that what the Rabbanan, the Mari Ari of Taska, the rabbis didn't. They made a fail safe. And whenever the creditor gives that paper to the whenever the debtor gives that paper to the creditor, Takina Rabbanan, the Mari Ari, they make sure that the creditor Yav Taska, one, he dafka pays the head tax to the goyim, the kari, and he's the one who digs the ditch that was traditionally made around the field. So therefore, what? So since he consistently showing, so the rabbis made sure not to leave him vulnerable. They made sure that he would do things that would demonstrate undeniably his ownership. Exactly. He's showing they're making sure that he shows that he is the owner. Exactly. I wish Eretz Yisrael is like such a wild west, of all kinds of things. So if you've been there years, the things that I saw, you can't believe what people do. All kinds of things. They're so smart. Everybody got tricks and ways. I told you one of the classical tricks that they do over there is called the establishment of facts. So what do? It's called asiyat uvdot. But how do you establish? So here, you want a property. All you do is you get your friend to write you rent checks. And after a couple of years,
you show that.
But then when the property is disputed, you go to court. You say, whatever, I've been getting rent for this. This guy's been paying me rent for 10 years. It must be who also owns it. Obviously, I own it.
Well, but nobody owns land in Israel. It's all
Well, no, there were some. So there's some that they didn't take over. There's some that was prior. But anyway, but that's the trick. Everybody does the same things. But even the land owned by the government, they still buy and sell. But anyway, There's no end to these things. So the rabbis were sure that the guy does something to demonstrate his ownership. That's what I'm trying to say. That he doesn't know. What's they can do? But it says what about if that land doesn't have a ditch? Okay, it's not a place where they don't do it. Although you have Taska, or let's say it happens to be a particular, it's a land where the king exempted it. What's going to happen now? How they protect them? He says he violate limchus. You're right. Such a guy has to be smart enough to protest. To make it. Hello, everybody. Welcome to my annual party on my land that the other guy is on. Well, I'm just teasing. He has to announce that it's his. What? Okay, what? Okay, what if he didn't? He didn't make a statement. He didn't protest. Then he caused the loss himself. That's his own problem. He should have been smart enough to protect his hits, right? All right, now we're going to talk about this. Let's say you're Oris, a sharecropper, and when it's time, time to divide up the crop, there's a fight. What was the deal? Oris, the sharecropper says the deal was I get half of the crop, and the owner says no, I only let him want to get a third of the crop, a classic 1/3, 2/3 split. Me now, and who's believed? So Yehuda says, listen, he says the owner of the field is the guy who's believed, and the sharecropper only gets a third. Okay, Rav Nachman, and the sharecropper only gets a third. Yeah, we're going to explain in a minute. Rav Nachman says, well, he says, no, you follow the rule. In that such a case, well, what's normally done in that area? Is it usually done as a 50-50 split or a 2/3, 1/3 split? So the Talmidim in the base medrash thought that Rabbi Yehuda, Rav Nachman, Lo Pliga, they weren't really arguing. They thought it was not really an argument. Okay, Rav Nachman, he said that he said what? No, that Rav Nachman who said that you follow the rule. If the rule is where it's half and half, so therefore what? So therefore you give him half. You follow the rule. And what? And Rabbi Yehuda, who said in a place where the norm is that he accepts a third, and therefore what? So he says that the owners believe. So they were out there, both really following. They're both really following the rule. They're all following the custom. Shmuel, he said to him, he said, no. He said, no, if they're arguing even in a place, both of them are talking about the same case, where the sharecropper usually gets half. Nevertheless, and he says, nevertheless, even though usually the normal deal is half, but the owner of the land is believed to say he only gets a third, the boy Omar, because he could say to him, he could lie and say, what, this guy is just a worker or a picker. He's not a sharecropper. Yeah, this is just a guy I hired to work, to work for me all day long, or hired a guy to pick. But he's not a sharecropper. So since he could have lied and easily, and not giving him anything, so he has no rights to any portion of the crop. Believe him now when he says no, he is a sharecropper, but he only gets a certain portion. Okay, now you know that this is a very interesting point. You know that children, remember, are responsible only to pay the father's debts from land. And we said why? Because the lender doesn't rely on anything else. You can always hide movables, etc. So and they're only now. So what you saw me, Omrim. Now what happened was so that now the kids have the land from the father, but the creditor wants to take the land. They say 1 second. He says Yisomra, I know we made it better. You don't have a right to. You only have a right you only have a right to the land that we inherited, but not to the improvement that we made on the land to pay off your debt. Well, the creditor says, he says it's not true. That land was already improved in your father's lifetime. I had a right to all of it to collect. Amila be right. So who has to bring the proof? Who's the extractor? Sabra Chanina Lamemar. So Rabbi Chanina thought to say what? Really what? The land is already in possession of because they're the ones who are supposed to get it because they inherited it. So they're in possession of the land, including its improvement and therefore what the creditor is the ones who have to bring the proof that the father did it. Who Sabas, a certain elder said to him, Rabbi Yochanan said like this. I saw me love you right. No, it's the orphans have to bring the proof that they put the improvement in. My time, what's the reason? This is a very big principle. Ara came to Golavana Kaima. Since the land was there to be collected from, the creditor has a lien on the land. Command once he has a right to collect from it, it's like he had already collected it. It's like he had already collected it. So before the kids ever got it, he already collected it, and therefore what? So therefore the land is really in his possession. Ironically, he saw me love Uriah, and it's really what it's therefore it's upon the orphans to prove it, right? To prove the point. He says, you know what? He says we really learned exactly what Rabbi Yochanan said that the thing that's going to be collected is already collected. We really learned it from a Mishnah. Where is that? Remember, there's a rule that you have to leave an area. It's nice for the city to have an area around it. So it's really 25 amas, 50 amas. We can all depend on what kind of tree. But essentially, you put a tree too close to the city, you have to we cut it down. We cut it down. Now the question is,
does that apply even to a fruit tree?
You know what? I'm gonna.
Normally, you're not.
Yeah. You know what? I'm not sure at the moment. Let's look it up. I don't remember. Okay, but good point. Okay, but anyway, but you're not right to put a tree in front of the place. So you have to see. So we have to see who came first. Okay, what's the rule? Okay, now the rule is that what if the city was there first? Okay, so you have to cut it down. Okay. And the city who owns the city doesn't have to pay for it. If the tree was there first, so then you cut it down.
But you have to.
But the city has to pay. The city guy has to pay for it. Suffolk, okay, Zekodam, Suffolk, Zekodam. But if we don't know if the tree was there first, and in which case the city has to pay for it, or if the city was there first, in which case the city doesn't pay, code says so in a doubt, okay, we cut it down, and he doesn't have to pay for it. Alma, why is that? Why is that? So we see what came in the mixas kaiva because since the tree has to be cut down no matter what, Amina lay, okay, I see Raya Vishaka. So we say what to the owner of the tree, since we had a right to take away the tree, so it's who has the right to the tree? The city, and really what? And therefore it's incumbent upon the tree guy to bring the proof. Achanami, here too the same thing. Haishtara came to go Lanakami. Since the paper is there to collect, okay, he has the right to collect. Come on, the Gavidama, we consider it as if it already was collected by Yisomi Lavi Raya, and it's upon the an orphan. So it's a thing that you have a right to collect. We consider already what? Already collected. I see Yasmi Raya Dinu Eshbichu. Okay, and let's say when the orphans brought a proof that they're the ones who they brought it in the end, they brought a proof that what? That they made the improvement. So we thought like now when the creditor has to pay them back. What we thought maybe what he has to he took the land, but he has to pay them back for the improvement, maybe he has to pay him back in land. Okay, below, but it's not true. That's what he thought, but it's not true. Okay, why is that? Dummy sucking. He only has to pay them back money. He doesn't have to pay them back land. And why is that? Mida Rav Nachman. We learn from Rav Nachman said. Rav Nachman Marshul. Rav Nachman Marshul said the following: Shlosha shaman and shebach. There are three cases where we evaluate the improvement, or malan or some but we only pay the improvement back to the improver in money and not in land. The Elohim. What are the three cases? Bechor lepashet. Let's say firstborn has a right to two portions, whereas the other, let's say the firstborn has a right. Let's say a firstborn and a non-firstborn. So instead of dividing the inheritance into two, we divide it into three, and we give two to land. We give two to the firstborn, and one to the non-firstborn. So what's the point? Okay, and now to non-firstborn. Now, but let's say what? But he only get he doesn't get double in the land that was improved afterwards. After they got it to improve it, he has no right to that because he only has a right to what was originally the father's and not what was going to accrue to it. So therefore, what? So he takes double. He takes double, but he has to what? He has to give back the money of the portion of the other brother for the improvement. But so he said, well, that's number one. We gives him in money and not in land. He took the land, but he gives him back money. Also, what? Let's say when you want to the balchov, the creditor, or the woman who's collecting for her ksuba from her husband's estate, when they took also the land with the improvement, they have to return the improvement to the orphans. Okay, they return the orphans. Okay, they also have to pay back in money and not land. And also like this, we know that if a person bought land that there was a lien on, so the creditor has a right to come and take it away from them. What if the creditor comes to take away the land, but they said I already improved the land? The creditor takes the improved land and pays them back money for the improvement and doesn't pay them back the land. So the kid says, Rabashi. So he said to him, Rabashi, he says, the Maimer the Sover Shmuel Bachov Kuchos. Okay, 1 second. You tell me what Shmuel really held what? That a creditor has to pay back. I don't think he has to pay back at all. He says, well, it's not true. I thought Shmuel held that when the creditor comes, he doesn't have to give it at all. You know why? Okay, didn't Shmuel say the creditor takes the improvement and doesn't have to pay back at all? Why? Now remember, it's not why, because remember because the buyer has recourse to the original seller. Okay, and if you tell me what, don't worry. Okay, that's but we see over there. Shmuel said what? We're going to see. Shmuel said what? He doesn't pay back at all. How come over here? He gave me a list of things, and one of the things Shmuel said was, you pay back, but you don't pay back in land. I thought Shmuel said you don't have to pay back at all. If you want to say me what, I can resolve the contradiction over here. Shmuel on the top first, Shmuel said, well, you pay back, but in money. And over Shmuel says you don't pay back at all. Okay, when Shmuel says what, they have to pay back the improvement. Fine. It's, for example, when the crops are ready to they're ready to be harvested. They're ready shoulder height. They're ready to be. That means they're ready to be harvested, and therefore what he has to pay back. And Khan, when he says that he doesn't have to give it back, is when the produce is not ready to be harvested and he keeps it. Okay, it still needs the land. Well, okay. I said 1 second. But if you tell me that it's not true, it must be called Yom. We saw every day, but it happens constantly. Because Magabi Shmuel, I feel b'shevach America time. Shmuel gave the creditor the rights to the improvement even when the crops were ready to be harvested. No difference. So Lakashans, we have to still some. Shmuel one time said that the creditor pays back. He takes the land but pays back the improvement. The one day he takes the land doesn't pay back. Okay. He says you have to tell me when Shmuel said what that the buyer doesn't get the improvement. The Mesik Bekashir are Vishippa. It's when the loan is enough money that it needs both the land and the improvement to get paid back, and therefore he has the right, he gets everything back. Okay. When the Rav Nachman say what that he has to give it back to the Masik Beishir Arba Shifa when the loan doesn't eat up the price of the land and the improvement, so therefore he has to give back the improvement. Okay, but 1 second. So what? But even when the loan doesn't eat up the whole price of the land plus the improvement, and he has to give back the improvement. But that's fine. That makes sense that he has to give it back. Okay, where he gives back money and not land. We have a machlokas here. Let's say the creditor has a right to claw back the land from the buyer. What if the buyer says, listen, you know what? I have money. Here,
I'll
he owed
pay
you,
you.
I'll give you $1,000. Don't take the land. He has so according to the opinion, it says what? That he has no right. The creditor had a lien on the land. The creditor says, listen, I'm sorry, tough luck, goodbye, Charlie. He didn't pay me. I get back the land. I get back the land. Shop here. So I understand why the Baal Chov, why the creditor has a right to give him money, because the guy has no recourse to get the land. So he has to give him the money. But according to the opinion, it says what? That any creditor can be pushed off, and the buyer can say, listen, you're trying to collect your loan. Here's the money. Get out of here. Let me keep the land. So then, in this case, where he took the land and the he took the land and the accruement, and he didn't need all the accruement. He has to pay it back. Namely, let him say to him, still, don't give me back the accruement in money. If I had money, I could have thrown you off. According to this opinion, I had money, I could have thrown you off the whole land. Hashta the Leslie Zuz, even though I don't have the money, but I do have the money that you have to give me. I have the money that you have to pay me back. He says, Havli Girdar, give me a little measure of land. According to give me a measure of land, according to the improvement. That's like I have money. Give me that amount of money. Let me throw you off. I says, you're nice point, but it's not true. Kagon the Shabi, okay, apotike. It's where the original debtor didn't just say what my land, or all my land, my land. By definition, my land stands as a surety. No, he said you collect from this piece, this piece, on this piece. He says to him, he said, no, you get from this one specifically, and therefore, even according to the opinion that in general the debtor can say to the creditor, I'll give you money, leave the land alone. When the original debtor said you're going to collect from this land, then even if the creditor, even if the buyer has money, it doesn't make a difference. If he has money, he can't throw him. Okay, furthermore, we're starting to learn now the laws of paying your worker on time. Okay, well, we gotta see. I'm ahead of myself. I'm sorry. Okay, but I'm a Kabbalah said that mechaberu. If a guy rented a field from his friend the Shuach, he said what for one a shua means what one week of years. A week of one Shemitah cycle. He says, I bought it for one Shemitah week, week of years for 700 zuz. Okay, so that's all. The seventh year is part of it. He doesn't have to give him an extra year. But if he said 7 years for 700 zuz and a shvius miniminion, then he has to give him another year, an 8th year, instead of the 7th year, okay? Because it didn't count, okay? So here, yom. Remember, even when you can't plant the land, you still get to use it. You can dry fruits, etc. Schir yom, okay? Let's say a guy's hired as a day worker. Just do whatever I tell you. Go v'kol halayla. So a guy was hired as a day worker. When he finishes after the day, he collects his salary all night long. Okay, but once the morning comes already, then the boss has transgressed the rule of what? Don't keep the pay overnight. Don't keep the pay overnight. Sir Lila, a guy works at nighttime, goes and call Yom, and he collects his salary all day long. And once the sun goes down, the boss is transgressed, not letting the sun go down on the guy without paying him. Skier shows, let's say guys hired for a certain amount, work for a certain amount of hours a day, and really even he was day work when he finished his job. Go b'kol laila, so he collects all night long, b'kol yom, and all of the day. We're going to see
all
later.
The next day, all of the remaining day.
So I'm not saying I claim the 5th. I take the 5th, and we're going to explain. Yeah, we're going to explain everything exactly. Siyar Shabbos. Okay, if a guy was hired to work for 7 days, Siyar Chodesh is hired to work for a month. Siyar Shana hired to work for a year. Siyar Shavua hired to work for the cycle of 7. Yotza b'yom. Okay, if he completed, if the final work is finished in the daytime, well, we'll see. Go b'kol yom. He collects all day long. Yotza b'layla. If he finishes at night or goes out at night, go b'kol layla b'kol yom. Again, we'll explain later. We collects all night and all day. Let's see what it means. Tana Rabbanu, we learn. How do we know that the day worker collects all night? That the time is all night long, all the next night. Talmud Lomar, because the pasuk says, "Lo solim pulasach itchay boker." don't keep the payment of the worker until morning. So you see what it goes all night till the morning. I mean, how do I know that the night worker can get paid all day long? Because it says here on his day, pay him the money. So it must be and the sun shouldn't go down. So there must be an I knew. So 1 second. How do you know to read what the nighttime is to pay the day worker and the daytime is to pay the night worker? Why don't you say the other one? Okay, why don't you say that the day worker gets paid all of that day, and the night worker gets paid all of that night? Okay, Gemara says no, it can't be. He says plus we have a rule that the work of a hired worker is only owed to him when he finishes the job. Okay. We'd only owe him, and therefore what? So therefore, by definition, he's not obligated to pay him a day work until the day ends. So therefore, it can't be that you have to pay him all day long because you don't owe him all day long. And the same thing with the night worker. Since you don't owe the night worker until the night ends, it can't be that you pay him all that night because you don't owe him anything until the night is over. Ton Rabban, one more.
Tomorrow is very long. So
yeah. Okay. He says, when it says that he said you shouldn't keep the wages of the worker with you any day shad boker. Okay, so but you already told me, if you told me don't keep it tulling, don't have it at night, don't sleep it over. So don't I know shad boker? So I know it's till the morning. So why the pasuk say till morning? Okay, Matamud Lomer. Ad boker. Why the pasuk have to add these extra words? Malamed sheino over ad boker rishon bavad. It's teaching me what that he only transgresses once. The first morning that he didn't pay, he transgresses. We don't say every ensuing day that he transgresses again and again. So it's one. It's a one-time sin.
What doesn't pay? Is it penalized?
Oh, so we're gonna see here. We're gonna see. We're gonna see in a minute here. Here. Look. What about new? What about after that? Is nothing. There's nothing. Nothing wrong. Rob over mishum bal tasha. There's a rabbinic transgression of what? Of holding it back. Rob Yosef, Micro, what pasuk supports such an idea? He says, Al tomer l'reacha lech b'shov v'machar teim b'yesh itach. He says you shouldn't tell your friend, go and come, and I'll give it to you tomorrow, and you have it now. You can't try. You can't go cause them sugar. So therefore, we say what? As long as the guy keeps holding it, he does transgress. At least rabbinically.
One word.
At least rabbinically.
5 words in the next page.
The only thing is, I'm not sure because 1 second. No, it's going to go for a while. It's going to go for it has to be discussed. You're right. Don't worry. We'll do it.
Yeah.
Even if I do know how to talk fast.
Yeah. Wait, you do not know how to talk slow.
My mother.
You talk so fast that you outrace your brain, and you have these verbal tics.
My mother's father, bless his memory, he used to say, he's a scientist. You say, my ears cannot hear as fast as your mouth is speaking.
Because you have several verbal tics that you use the brain to catch up.
Yeah. Hey.
So Mordechai, you owe him not only for today, but tomorrow also. He's always ahead. He got paid for tomorrow as well.
But I'm also have a head.
You should know, I was like an electrician. I never seen it done because they don't want to, if the boss is having trouble, you don't want to put them out of business.
Yeah.
Say we got paid, say, on a Monday. If the checks don't come,
you will clear till Wednesday.
Until the checks come.
And do nothing.
You do nothing, just wow. And you get paid as we're waiting for it.
Wow.
But like I said,